serving Buffalo, Toronto, Rochester, and beyond. This is 99.5 WDCX FM Buffalo, WDCX HD1 Buffalo, and 970 WDCZ AM Buffalo, and 990 WDCX AM Rochester, and WDCX HD1 Rochester.
Welcome back to Lifeline on this Monday, Martin Luther King Jr. holiday, Inauguration Day for President Barack Obama. Thanks for your calls previously there on the benediction prayer there. Wow, we might get back to that in tail end of the hours. We'll wait and see how things go. My guests this hour, Reverend Terry King from Saving Grace Ministries and Reverend Darius Pridgeon from True Bethel Baptist Church. And I love what's going on with Saving Grace Ministries and the transitioning from prison to real life, if you will, and what Terry is doing with his ministry. And in fact, these guys are going to be a part of Making a Difference, the speaker series at the chapel at Cross Point. I wanted to bring them in so we could chat with them about what this really is all about and give you a taste for it. Remember, Jesus said, hey, when I was in prison, you came to visit me, that type of thing. So God's heart for not only the poor, the disadvantaged, but those in jail, it's huge. We need to keep that in mind. So these guys joining me in just a moment. Phone lines open. If something just kind of spurs your thinking, you can join in. Love it. 883-5000, 1-800-684-2848.
You're shocked at how much you spent on Christmas gifts. You scour your receipts looking for errors, but there aren't any. Not a single one. You did your best to stick to your budget, but even with all the sales out there, you paid far more than you planned. Wanted to avoid starting the new year with Christmas debt. Some extra cash to pay off those bills would be great. And we have a solution. Now is the time to exchange your old gold, and we have your connection in the GTA. Gather up your old gold and head over to Sammy's Jewelers inside Dufferin Mall. Gold exchange at Sammy's is quick and easy. Ask for Marcus. And don't forget to mention that you're a WDCX listener to get special Kingdom rates. Start off 2013 without the burden of Christmas debt. Exchange your old gold at Sammy's Jewelers, 900 Dufferin Street, inside the Dufferin Mall, near Walmart. Sammy's Jewelers is your Kingdom connection for gold exchange in the GTA.
Give your family a new, reliable vehicle that's just right, with no payments for 90 days and the 3 payments on us sale at Posada Kia in Pickering. It's 2 special deals on select Kia models just for WDCX listeners. Owners Joe and Marcel Posada know the importance of having a vehicle your family can count on that meets your family's needs. Choose the Kia model that's right for you and enjoy no payments for 90 days. They will even make 3 payments for you. A variety of Kia models are available for the no payment for 90 days, 3 payments on us sale, including the family-friendly Kia Sorento with seating for 7. Visit Christian owners Joe and Marcel at Posada Kia in Pickering. Tell them you're a WDCX listener and test drive your new family vehicle today. Posada Kia is located on Bailey Street, west of Brock Road, just off the 401 in Pickering. Posada Kia, where family makes the difference.
It's 5:05 now. Reverend Terry King sitting across from me here in the studios from Saving Grace Ministries. So nice to see you again, Terry. How you doing? Nice to go ahead and turn your mic on. Nice to see you.
Grateful for being here, and thanks for having us back.
That's funny. People can tell it's live, right? We'll throw in a few mistakes just to make you feel more comfortable sometimes. Anyway, Terry, good to have you with us. Also on the way, we've got Reverend Darius Pridgeon. He is joining us by phone. Pastor Pridgeon, how are you today, my friend?
Good, and thank you for accommodating my crazy schedule. I really wanted to be in studio with you guys today, but I'm doing well. Thank you.
Excellent. We're so glad to have you guys with us. And, hey, the Making a Difference speaker series coming up the chapel at Cross Point. Terry, I'll ask you first. You guys, you're very excited about this. We've been promoting it. What do you hope comes out of this?
I think an awareness from every walk of life and every segment of our community that those individuals coming back into our community are coming back regardless of what our political bent is and what we think morally should happen with people from prison. They're here, and it's our responsibility to help them become productive members of our community. And I think that, when we can consider, the broad base of crime in Western New York, this makes a difference. When every life can be touched and become a productive member of community, regardless of where they come from, we win. Our communities are safer. We have less violence, and it is a community problem. And for the churches of Western New York to rise up and to become really engaged in this and recognize its importance is a tremendous step.
Darius, I want to bring you into the conversation here as well. This is something, my guess is, that has been on your radar for quite some time.
I've been involved in the past, not so much in the recent past, but with Attica Correctional Facility and other facilities, especially when it deals about inmates re-entering into society. And it's just important because a lot of the constituents, I use that term constituents, but members, constituents that I deal with, whether it's on the council, Buffalo Common Council, or whether it's in the church, families are touched by people who are incarcerated, and to act as if they will never come back out into the streets is a grave, grave mistake. And what Terry is doing and others are doing is very important for all communities.
What about transformation? And we believe in a God who can redeem that which is lost. We believe in a God who can take the worst situation and redeem it. And really, Darius, this is what we're talking about here, isn't it?
Yeah, it's definitely about redemption, about changing. And, a lot of times we are afraid of what we do not know. We're afraid of processes that we do not know and people that we do not know. And I think what we really hope and what to occur at the chapel coming up is to really connect people to knowledge that they may have never known, especially when it deals with inmates and how other people may be able to help. All of the jobs that are needed won't be able to be provided on the east side of Buffalo or on the west side of Buffalo. And everybody who's coming out of prison are not people who will reoffend again, but some of the people in have truly been redeemed and really are looking for that second chance that Christ has given each one of us who believe.
Terry, when it comes to this whole idea of giving folks a second chance, and God has given me a second, a third, a fourth, a fifth, our God is filled with grace. To do this is important, but it has to be done in just the right way. There has to be some structure to it, which is why you're doing what you're doing.
I think our track record speaks to that. Our program is designed about accountability. We love individuals. We help them, assist them, but we also teach them that their criminal history does not have to become their future, that they can take the steps of accountability to understand what led them into prison or into that criminal life, but that doesn't have to be their future. And we have to hold them accountable because we do look at that, what they're capable of doing, and we also know that as they come into society, there will be members of the community that will be fearful of them. But again, that is just somebody that maybe doesn't understand. We have 2,200 individuals coming back every year to Erie County on state prison. From state prison. That is a big number.
Yeah, it is.
And our program will house approximately 650, male and female. So we're taking a large percentage. And there's other programs in the community that do a great job, but we tend to focus on those individuals that really have a higher need, higher risk, and often reoffend. And our track record says that nearly 80% of the individuals that will complete our program stay out of prison for over a year that we track, which is a phenomenal, almost 100% opposite statistic than where we began in the year 2000.
Is it because of the gospel changing lives? Is that the essence of it?
It is. I think that everyone on our staff, the stakeholders, the community that is engaged around this population, really believe that God can change their life and keep them on a road to a different path of life that is crime-free, is substance abuse-free, is just a normal life that perhaps they come to us not understanding and knowing. And part of our ministry effort at Saving Grace is that we do not intend to preach to them, the clients that we serve, but rather we elect to live the life of Christ by loving, feeding, clothing, and helping, and let them ask us, why do you care?
And they do ask you that, don't they?
Over and over, we see those stories played out. People will come to us and they're angry, they're bitter, they're resentful that someone's made a decision to place them in our care and custody. They believe that they have another plan that they want to live out, and they find themselves at Grace House.
Now, Darius, what do you think the problem is in our churches here? Fear of maybe taking in some of these men and women who are coming from prison. Fear can be very debilitating. It can paralyze us. Do you think we have that? And by the way, we should have caution, okay? Nobody's throwing caution to the wind here. We need to be wise. But Darius, do you think maybe we become too fearful of this group of people?
Well, I think that maybe not on purpose, but just as I said, what we don't know, we become fearful. But we know that the Word definitely tells us that God has not given us a spirit of fear, nor a spirit of timidity. And so it is about, just like those of us who who have never been incarcerated, we just don't know. And if you've never gone inside, if you've never talked to someone who's been rehabilitated, you are fearful. And, some of that is just natural because of the circumstance. But what I really hope is that people understand is that part of this series, part of talking about these things is there might be someone there who's an employee. There might be someone there who's a teacher, someone there who can really help. So, yes, there's fear there. I must admit, I can remember when I first went into Attica, and not as an inmate. I got a grant to teach in Attica, and I was fearful.
Yeah.
I didn't know what I was walking into. I didn't know, and I did not, let me be very transparent, I did not identify when I first went in to teach. I can remember the first day I went into Attica to teach, what the inmates were very upset with me. And part of it was because some of the words that I used, I wasn't sensitive, because I wasn't educated as far as prison life and what they were going through and experiencing. So the fear, it's natural, but we can get over it with knowledge.
Pastor Darius Pridgeon, our guest for the next few minutes, is joining us by telephone, and Pastor Terry King is my guest from Saving Grace Ministries. Much more to talk about. We're going to take a quick break and come back. Maybe you have a question about how you can become involved. We're going to tell you more about that, of course, coming up in a few minutes. But Terry, for Terry, it's very personal. This is something that God has called him to, and when he was on the program the last time, which has been far too long ago, I might add, he shared his story of how he got involved with this. And so we're gonna talk about that as well if you happen to have missed that program. Want to weigh in? You can do it, 883-5000 or 1-800-684-2848. Your children, you think about them all the time. You're a Christian mom or dad. And have you thought about putting a will in place? I know we don't like to talk about it, but it's important for us to take responsibility to care for our loved ones. It's very biblical. But you're like, okay, a will, what do I do? How does that work? Christian lawyer Leslie Smith can help you.
What would happen to your child if something happened to you and your spouse? I'm Leslie Smith, and I'm a lawyer in Oakville. If you die in Ontario without a will, you will have no opportunity to choose a custodian and guardian for your minor children. Drafting a will is the most important thing you can do for your child, and you want to be absolutely certain that it's set up properly. Call me today at 905-257-7714, and I can help you and your spouse draft a will.
Imagine balancing a 12-pound bowling ball on the top of your head all day long. Your muscles are tight, your neck is sore. Hi, I'm Dr. Denise Tomlin of Churchill Chiropractic in Mississauga. Naturally, your neck balances your head without any effort. However, even the smallest misalignment in your neck can cause pain and reduce mobility. Dr. Mark and I see this sort of thing all the time. It's almost routine. Chiropractic Care has a history of producing excellent results for those suffering from neck pain, and we do it naturally, without drugs or surgery. So many of our patients find that Chiropractic Care gives them relief from both minor and major neck complaints. Call us today at 905-820-5660 to find out how Chiropractic Care can help with your neck pain. That's 905-820-5660 for your free WDCX consultation. We're Christian chiropractors, Mark and Denise Tomlin of Churchill Chiropractic in Mississauga, helping his children live.
You'll find it all at one place in Toronto. Faith Family Books and Gifts in Scarborough, Toronto's Christian superstore. With 11,000 square feet, you'll enjoy Canada's largest selection of Christian books, music, DVDs, and more, with a wide variety of church resources and great gifts for any occasion. Visit Faith Family Books and Gifts today, just one light north of the 401 at the corner of McCowan Road and Milner Avenue, next to Winners in the Town Central Plaza. Faith Family Books and Gifts in Scarborough, Toronto's Christian superstore.
I don't know how I look up, and all I see is your love holding me.
883-5000. That's 883-5000. 1-800-684-2848. Going to the phones here in just a moment. My guests, Reverend Terry King from Saving Grace Ministries and Reverend Darius Pridgeon, Senior Pastor of True Bethel Baptist Church here in the Buffalo area. And Darius is on the run today. Busy guy. These guys are going to be part of a Making a Difference speaker series, really filling in the blanks and telling you more about the wonderful work going on through Saving Grace, helping inmates from prison transition into life here in the Buffalo area, and how we do that and how we do it in a godly way, and so much more Terry and I are going to be talking about. But Darius, I know you got to go here. I'm going to give you a chance here on the tail end before we let you go. Share your heart. Give us your parting shot.
You know, I think that what is going to happen at the chapel is so important, and what Terry is doing is so important. I can remember when Terry came to me years ago, told me his dream, and he was already really starting it. The neighborhood he wanted to be in, and I really thought the guy had lost his mind. And he believed it, and he meant it, and he worked hard when there was very little help. But to me, this is what the Bible is entirely about. It's not about Christians just simply getting together every Sunday morning and having feel-good time and then leaving without doing the work. And what is the work? What is the work that Jesus showed us? It was not just for believers. It was to bring the unbelievers, and he even helped those who were not believers. And I think that sometimes we look at how can we market our church and how can we get people into church. And I think when we leave that mentality of growing churches and get to the real part of advancing the kingdom, by loving people and being kind to people and people who are different than us and people who have not had the same breaks off, almost, if you want to use those words, as others. And I think this is what's so important and why I'm so excited to share, because I think that when we share with one another and we open up some doors that have been closed just by a lack of knowledge, that we'll see a turnaround in our community for people who are coming out of prison, and we'll see the love of Christ begin to spread abroad even the greater.
Darius, thanks so much for fitting us into your very busy schedule. I so appreciate it, and we appreciate your ministry as well. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
You bet. Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye.
Terry, you've got a friend in Darius, don't you?
Oh, he is. He is a colleague. He is a friend. And he's a true man of God who understands the mission here on earth is to serve the needs of our community. He's doing it at True Bethel. He rose up to, when he saw some injustice, he said, I can make a difference, and ran for public office. I'm sure that's one of the last things he had on his personal agenda.
Yeah.
But there he is, making an impact and a difference in the lives of people and helping change a public policy by public perception and education.
Mm-hmm.
He's in the fight. And I think even on this day, the Martin Luther King celebration, it reminds us of the duty that we have to make an impact in our community for the greater good.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why we wanted to have you guys here, is because it fits in so nicely with MLK Day, you know, and what it really stands for. Let's go to the phones. Melissa is joining us from Ontario. Hi, Melissa. How are you?
Hi, I'm good, thank you.
Great. Welcome to the program. What's up?
I just wanted to add to the conversation just by adding that we need to remember that not everybody in prison is a bad person. You know, it could have been they just made a mistake and it's a singular event. And so when we are having the conversation of rehabilitation, we have to try to be as non-judgmental as possible, because, you know, sometimes it's just one mistake and that ended them there. If they ended up there and, you know, they're willing to change, or they have even had change before even ending up there, and they still had to go there anyway. So that was it.
Yeah, I'm glad you pointed that out, Melissa. We appreciate your phone call. It's true, Terry. We stereotype. We do that very naturally, and we need to not be doing that. We need to be intentional about not doing it.
I agree. I sometimes will read someone's file, and I sit there and I just read it, and I'll say, "You did what?" And you ended up in prison.
Yeah.
And my heart breaks because I know that, you know, it didn't have to play out that way, but for whatever reason, they did, and you know, they come back home, and we help them as we can. And I think one of the things that we work at every day is drawing that distinction between judging the criminal history and knowing what someone is capable of, and looking at their life in God's eyes and saying, what is your godly purpose on here on earth while you remain here on earth, and finding that destiny in your life. And that's our obligation, is to help them define that, shape that, and become all that God created them to be. I don't believe in my heart it was to go to prison.
Yeah.
Unless someone struggles with some deep-seated mental illness or something that they can't control on their own will. And that is a discussion for another day. But in most instances, the individuals that come back do not want to return. And they struggle with finding their rightful place and acceptance in our community and finding where they fit.
And we're going to talk more about the specifics involved, as well as your own personal story, coming up in just a couple of minutes here. You want to join in the conversation? Again, Melissa, thank you so much for your call. 883-5000, 1-800-684-2848.
Financial Moments with Tom Copeland.
Bob and Joan totaled their debts. Several credit cards maxed to the limit, a personal line of credit, 2 car loans, and a large mortgage accumulated to a huge amount. How did this ever happen? Review of their bank and credit card statements revealed that their spending had been in excess of their income for many years. They now realize that borrowing money severely restricts their future options. For example, Joan cannot stay at home with the kids but must work full-time, and Bob must work additional hours in order to pay for their debts. As they studied God's Word on finances for the first time, they learned that God promised His children that if we put Him first, He will meet our needs. In Philippians 4:19, Paul said, "And my God will meet all your needs according to His glorious riches in Christ Jesus." Throughout the Bible, God consistently met needs without the assistance of a lender. Clearly, God wants His children to have little or no debts, so they committed to paying off their debts as soon as possible.
The struggle facing those returning home from prison is real. Erie County has nearly 2,000 individuals released to parole each year, and they face an uphill struggle to reintegrate into our community. There is a place in Western New York that reaches out to these men and women who have no other options. Grace House, led by Reverend Terry King, is a faith-based transitional residence that provides room and board for 72 individuals every day. On January 29th, Reverend Terry King and special guest Reverend Darius Pridgeon, senior pastor of True Bethel Baptist Church, will be speaking at the chapel at Crosspoint in the Apex building at 7 p.m. They have a special message that will challenge your heart and uplift your soul. Together, we can and are making a difference here in Western New York, and you can too. Don't miss this inspiring message from Reverend Terry King and Reverend Darius Pridgeon, January 29th at the chapel at Crosspoint. Tickets are free, and a love offering will be taken. For more information, call 893-1840. That's 893-1840. Sponsored by Making a Difference Speaker Series, a ministry of Integrity Lighthouse Enterprises.
My guest is Pastor Terry King. He is the director of Saving Grace Ministries here in the Buffalo area, a ministry that is growing by leaps and bounds. It's one of the reasons why they're going to be at the chapel at Crosspoint to communicate to the community at large how God is using them as a transition place for people who are getting out of prison. They need to acclimate back to real life, if you will, and there are many issues when it comes to that. It's not a simple, connect the dot from A to B to C. It doesn't necessarily work like that. There are a lot of issues to deal with. And Terry is spearheading this. We're going to talk more about the growth in a moment. But Terry, as you mentioned to me the last time you were on the program, it's personal for you, isn't it?
It is. When I was in prison, the Lord touched my life and introduced me to the love of Christ that I had meaning and purpose on this earth, struggling as the victim mentality going into prison. After Jesus touched my life, it no longer was when I got out. I knew that he would let me out when it was in his time. While I was incarcerated, I learned that saving grace was to exist, be birthed. Grace House was a ministry calling upon my life. It wasn't an option. There were individuals coming back to community that were homeless. They didn't have a place to go. They didn't have someone to accept them and love them. And I was released with $40, a set of clothes, a life in Christ, a new wife, a new family, relationships, friendships, the things that I had never had before, in meaning and purpose. And I knew that God was real. And if he could do this miracle in my life, he can do it in anyone's life.
You love sharing that story, don't you?
I do.
Yeah, that's what it's all about.
I knew the path of destruction that my life was on, and I knew the horrors that my life had impacted upon many. And to have a life free in Christ and to be set free from the memories of the past and the burdens of that is truly precious.
And again, I know, look, you're choking up right now because you haven't lost that emotion, have you?
Every day I get up with the privilege to serve humanity, and that is the grace of God.
And for those folks who missed our last conversation, I know we have people wondering, what were you in jail for?
I had tragically drove drunk, and I struck and killed an innocent child.
Therefore, the emotion that you feel, people need to understand that. That's where you're coming from. And there are people who are wondering, and you talked about the grace of God. We can talk about it, but when you experience, we all experience it when we come to Christ, but the depths that you're talking about here, it should never become old to any one of us, you included. The grace of God, the saving grace, should never be overly familiar to us, should it?
Oh, absolutely. And we should never take this for granted, this life's journey. All of our lives can end today.
You just don't know.
You don't know. And the question that you ask is there a legacy to your life that's meaning and purpose that God has ordained? What will you leave behind? It's not the things of life that matter. It's the impact that your life made on this world around us. And as it was said to me not too long ago, someone came to Grace House to visit, and he said to me, if you die tonight, Grace House continues for the next generation. That's what you leave behind.
Wow. Let's go to Paul joining us from Williamsville. Hi, Paul. How are you?
Oh, how are you? Hi, Terry.
Hello. How are you, Paul?
Good. Hey, I just wanted to encourage you. You came to our church, Lovejoy Gospel, when you first started your ministry. We have all been blessed by just watching what you and the Lord have teamed up to do. And we just coming from our church, I just want to just encourage you and tell you, anybody who has time to go to this, please go, because we get a ton of things in the mail requesting assistance all the time, but this is the real thing. It's something where you know that God is just blessing it and multiplying it, and He's got a faithful servant. So on behalf of our church and all the rest of us Christians, I just want to thank you.
Thank you. You've touched me, Paul. I appreciate that.
There's a song out there by Big Daddy Weave. It's called Redeemed.
Oh, yeah.
It fits you, and it fits me just as well. So God bless you, brother, and just thank you. From the bottom of our heart, we just thank you.
Thank you. Be blessed.
Thank you, Paul, for calling in. We appreciate you. See, you get people mention things like that. You hear comments like that all the time. You probably hang on to each one. You say, Lord, thank you for the privilege. I don't deserve this. I don't deserve to sit here in this seat and be on the air every day either, Terry. And it's God's grace, isn't it?
It is His grace and His mercy.
Yeah. What about the Make a Difference speaker series at the chapel? That's what we're talking about. January 29th starts at 7 p.m. Doors open at 6:30. We have details at WDCXradio.com. You're going to be talking about how God has been growing the ministry in Grace House. And it takes money to do ministry. And you want to cast the vision that God has given you. Where are we at? You guys have a waiting list at this point. Am I right?
Yes, it's amazing. As our program matured through the years, we started in 2000 with 7 beds. We're now at 72 program beds. We're going to be adding an 8 new unit apartment building in Buffalo that will be used for long-term permanent housing for graduates of program. We're also acquiring an additional aftercare site. But more importantly, on any given day, we have a waiting list between 45 and 50 people. That is staggering, that there are still individuals that are undomiciled, homeless, that are in need of a place to live.
So they're on the streets right now, surviving the best they can?
Or they remain in prison until there's an address that they can come home to. Wow. Or they are sent to the city mission.
Yeah.
And they don't have that structure, and they don't have that accountability on a daily basis that they need. Well, when someone's incarcerated 10, 15, 20 years, a lot changes without question. The technology, the pace of life, and they're thrust back into a world that doesn't necessarily want to receive them back and isn't equipped in many instances to accept them. And they're looking at the pace of life and the emotions of life, saying, where do I fit? How do I adjust? Where do I go?
Yeah. And it goes far beyond just who's going to give me another chance. It's like, how do I adjust to the world as it is today? Because if I've been in it, like you said, 15, 20 years, boy, time changes everything. And then when you get out, you don't know what to do. How do you find a job? How do you have the skills to pursue that? We're going to talk more about these specifics in a few minutes as well. Do you have a question for Terry? Hey, maybe you are listening to the broadcast today and you're like, wow, I really wasn't aware. I'd heard of Saving Grace Ministries, but I wasn't aware of Terry's personal story. I was not aware of how his ministry works specifically. And God has been putting it on my heart to help out those who are coming out of prison. God works that way in the program every single day. And you're not listening by accident. Maybe you want to ask Terry a question. Maybe you want to make a comment about the ministry. I've got my phone lines open. 883-5000 in Buffalo, 883-5000 or 1-800-684-2848. Partnering with you and helping the landscape of the city of Buffalo and embracing folks who are in need for Christ, Terry. The good folks at Buffalo City Mission, they are working every day to reach out to those who are in need, and a lot of them are accepting Christ as a result. How exciting is that?
Winter is here, and you can help provide warmth through a hot meal. Meals are a big deal at the Buffalo City Mission. For people who haven't eaten in days, a plate piled high with hot food is an incredible blessing. Guests at the mission are not only hungry for a warm meal, but may also be hungry for hope. Buffalo City Mission mealtimes serve as opportunities, not only to provide a meal, but also to tell people about the other vital services offered and to invite them to participate. The food on their plates just whets their appetites for change. With the winter season already here, many men, women, and children will be coming through their doors in need of help. By donating as little as $1.98, you can help the Buffalo City Mission provide a meal of hope to those who need it most. Just $19.80 sponsors a table of 10 meals. Please, give what you can to help the Buffalo City Mission provide meals this winter season to those who are truly in need. Visit buffalocitymission.org to make your donation of $19.80 today.
You avoided going to the dentist for years. You're the first one to admit you neglected your oral health. 2013 is here. You're ready to start the new year off on a good note, and taking better care of your teeth tops your New Year's resolution list. There are a lot of dentists in Western New York, but only one we here at WDCX recommend you go to, Dr. Riyad. He has a special touch that makes every patient, from kids to adults, feel at ease. He wants you to be as comfortable as possible and explains each step of the examining process. Taking better care of your teeth is one New Year's resolution you're determined to follow through with. And the first step is easy. Pick up the phone and call Dr. Riyad to schedule your appointment. 688-3000. That's 688-3000. He has 3 convenient locations for you to choose from: East Amherst, Tonawanda, and his newest office in Snyder. Dr. Riyad, WDCX's exclusive Christian dentist in Western New York.
8:36 on this Monday. You've got Lifeline. You just hopped in the car on your way home from work, perhaps, or maybe you have the day off for the Martin Luther King Jr. holiday here in the States. We are talking with Reverend Terry King. He's a director of Saving Grace Ministries, helping those coming out of prison to transition back into society. And Terry, we were talking during the break about Martin Luther King Jr., and this ties in nicely. You have a quote from him, don't you?
I do. And this comes from one of his sermons, quoting, "A minister cannot preach the glories of heaven while ignoring social conditions in his own community that cause an earthly hell."
Wow, that's powerful.
And when we look around the social conditions of our time and the people that are living in that hell, we have an obligation to help lift them up.
Isaiah 58, you mentioned that. Some verses out of Isaiah 58. And if you give yourself to the hungry and satisfy the desire of the afflicted, then your light will rise in darkness and your gloom will become like midday. Throughout this, look at this. I love this that you brought this up. Going back to Scripture, you can never go wrong with that. Isaiah 58 really is your marching orders in a way, isn't it?
Yes, it's a personal favorite scripture for me because it's speaking to the church. It's speaking a message to say that you'll be a restorer of broken walls, that you'll rise up in a sun-scorched earth. And if you get back to the very basics of feeding, clothing, the type of fasting that God has commanded us to do.
This is something that many people have not considered, or maybe I shouldn't say that. Many people just don't know how to help. They think if I'm going to help somebody with prison ministry, then I need to go into the prisons and lead a Bible study, which, is great, and maybe God's calling many people to do that. But not all of us are called necessarily to that specifically. It is challenging, but God has different places for us to serve. And so perhaps we might have some people listening today as well, and they're like, I would love to volunteer to help you in what you do. Do you have volunteers? And if so, do you have a need for more?
Absolutely. We have adult education, GED, mentoring, discipleship. We also challenge groups to come and, for example, a good practical approach would be come and bring a meal. Bring the food, products to cook a meal. 3 or 4 people, come with 3 or 4 of our clients, go to the kitchen, teach them how to cook a meal, and sit down and have a family meal with them.
Ooh, yeah, great conversation.
Practical. It says, I care about you, I'm going to teach you something hands-on. And believe it or not, many of the individuals that we work with can't cook, can't wash clothes. We have to teach them some of these basic life skills.
So they've just forgotten over time?
Forgotten, or it wasn't important in their life and in their environment, how they were brought up.
Yeah.
I remember having a young fella say to me, and I kept asking him, about washing his clothes. This was early in our ministry.
Yeah.
And I said, what do you do when your underwear are dirty? And he looked at me and he said, I go to Kmart or Walmart and I steal another package.
That was his answer.
That's how he dealt with that life skill.
It's so hard for many people to imagine that being a reality, but it was.
And we had to go to the washer, put his clothes in, and teach him how to wash clothes.
And what was his response at that point? Was he like, wow, I had no idea?
Had no idea.
Wow. That's crazy. I mean, most of us are probably thinking, are you serious? We don't know the depths of this, do we? There are so many issues here, and the transition emotionally and spiritually. Wow, there's a great opportunity to help these men and women. Now, the question I have for you is this. Have you had any financial assistance from other sources, like maybe some grants?
We have. In fact, we have contracts with the Department of Criminal Justice Services, the New York State Prison System, Erie County Department of Mental Health, and quite recently, Saving Grace Ministries was awarded a new grant to construct a brand new 8-unit apartment building, funding provided by HUD for $1.2 million that will allow us to have aftercare housing long-term, so someone can move into this building and live there for the next 10, 20 years of their life.
Really?
Yes.
How long do most of your folks that you help out, are they in the program? Does it just vary case by case?
About 120 days is the average length of stay in our primary program. Some can be with us up to a year, depending on their level of needs and the placement and the history that they may have that just makes their case a little bit more difficult to find appropriate, suitable housing. But on average, about 4 months.
Do you find the most difficult people to place or to help are those who have convictions for, murder, rape, child molestation? How does that work?
Well, I think anyone convicted of a sex crime or an arson offense or a capital offense is going to have some difficulty in just the limitations on where they can be housed. And I think that our track record and our history says that we understand that, and we can hold someone accountable to both what society expects and the biblical truths of where their life needs to go.
Many in the church are grappling with the issue of somebody who is now a registered sex offender, has gone through rehabilitation, has accepted Christ, then they are released from prison, and they want to participate in the local church. And there's a quandary here, okay? How do you process that? Showing grace, because we all have fallen short of God's standard, but being wise and cautious. How do you advise churches who are navigating some of this?
Well, I think that it's very important that they have a safety plan in place.
Yeah.
That the church leadership really understands the population that they're dealing with and the behavioral issues that accompany these individuals. And also that when we introduce someone to a local church, that they are interviewed by the pastoral staff and sign a contract about what they agree to do and who will mentor them and how they'll act on the property.
Yeah.
And if that's violated, then the church has to make a decision about their long-term or their relationship.
Let's talk about how strict, for lack of a better word, you are. You have to be. There has to be accountability. Have you ever had to call local law enforcement on any of the folks in your program?
Absolutely. I think that's one of the things that earned our agency and our ministry the respect of law enforcement, the New York State Division of Parole, is that we are zero tolerance. That if someone is not willing to follow the rules of their release conditions to maintain their freedom in the community, then we have an obligation to report. And it's for the safety of our neighbors, our families, and anyone in our community.
And so you have done it before, and you're willing to do it again. It's part of what you do.
Freedom is with a cost.
Yeah.
Freedom has a cost.
Yeah. Maybe you have a question. Terry's only going to be with us for the next few minutes, and I don't want to leave you out of the conversation. If you want to learn more about what's happening with Saving Grace Ministries, again, Terry and Darius Pridgeon, who was with us a few minutes ago, they are going to be speaking at the Making a Difference Speaker Series. They're going to be talking about Saving Grace. Coming up January 29th at Chapel at Cross Point in Gettsville here in the Buffalo area. If you need more details on that, real easy. Just go to WDCXradio.com and click on the events page there. There are so many professions out there to choose from. We've got a new year. You're thinking about God's calling on your life, and you've always wanted to be a teacher. We need more godly teachers, whether it be in the public schools, Christian school, whatever. We need some good godly teachers. Check out Tyndale University in Toronto. They have a Bachelor of Education program that really is excellent.
How many times have you heard someone talk about that teacher they had, the one that made a difference, the one who had a positive impact? Tyndale's Bachelor of Education program provides training for students to become that teacher. This one-year degree allows you to graduate with 100 days of classroom experience. When you graduate from Tyndale's Bachelor of Education program, you'll be prepared to lead your own classroom because of your practicum and the faculty advisors who mentored, supported, and assisted you. Your practicums take place during critical time periods of a school year's rhythm. Start your program in July, and your first placement will begin on the first day of school in September. Tyndale's Bachelor of Education graduates continue to be hired in a variety of schools because they stand out. They stand out because they're prepared. If you thought about being a teacher, now is the time. You can make a difference. Become a teacher. For more information, visit tyndale.ca/education to apply today.
Despite all the financial turmoil, it continues to make sense to plan for your future. Hi, Armando David Vaca here of AD Vaca and Associates in Hamilton. Living in such unstable markets, we're forced to rethink our strategies. It's as crucial as ever to develop a solid plan for your future with all the right pieces, including gold. Now you can have gold in your financial portfolio. My staff and I will help you consider the option of adding gold bullion to better secure your financial portfolio. Gold is money. It's an international currency, a safe haven asset, and insurance against catastrophe.
Call AD Vaca and Associates today to schedule your free WDCX consultation at 905-549-PLAN. That's 905-549-7526. Bullion, insurance, and segregated funds are provided through Kingsview Financial Assurance Incorporated.
WDCX AM and FM, it's Lifeline. Good to have you with us. My name's Kurt. My guest in the studio is a gentleman who has been very honest, sharing his story. Terry King he's a good guy. He has a heart for those who have been in prison and are now, they're now released, but they have nowhere to go. They don't know what to do. They're trying to acclimate back into society, and many of them don't even know Jesus Christ. So Terry's like, okay, I've been there, I've done that, and how in the world, Lord, can I help these folks who really need guidance in a practical way, but more than anything, they need you. And making a difference. The speaker series, Terry and Darius Pridgeon going to be there unpacking how important this issue really is in Saving Grace Ministries and Grace House, the good work going on there. Terry, let's talk about Tuesday night, January 29th at the chapel. You're going to have a time of worship, and you're just going to be sharing your story. And you want to encourage people who are dealing with challenges in general to be there, I would imagine.
Oh, absolutely. I think that if you're listening tonight and you have a son or daughter, whatever relationship it may be, know somebody, a neighbor struggling with an addiction, abuse, or just on their way to that lifestyle, do whatever you can to get them there. I think it may change their life. And we're going to share from the heart about what God's doing here in the ministry. And we're also going to have others in the room that have overcome. And I think that's inspiring. And when someone is in the depth of despair, just hearing a story that there's hope and that God can do this for them, it could be life-changing.
And you need support financially to do everything God has put on your heart. That's just the way it is, isn't it?
Well, it is. And, you know, the churches of Western New York have been tremendous in our growth. And the Lord is really taking us now to a new place and to a new level. We're about to embark on this to become 90 beds. We really believe in our heart that Saving Grace has to build and remodel and improve our program standards in our sites and in our homes for the next 20 years to assure the next generation that Grace House remains for those returning. You know, every night for the last several weeks, I've been paying attention to the evening news locally. And it is staggering how many we're incarcerating. And when I hear the sentences of 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, I think to myself, they're coming back to Western New York in 10 years. They'll be back. Will we be prepared to receive them, to mentor them, and to hold them accountable to godly principles so they never want to commit another crime, but live a life with godly meaning and purpose?
What's your website, Terry?
www.sgmworld.org.
Okay, so Steve, if we haven't already, let's go ahead and put a link to that on our Facebook page. Then, of course, Terry, along with Darius Pridgeon, going to be speaking about this at the Chapel at Cross Point. The date is Tuesday, January 29th. Doors open at 6:30. Everything kicks off at 7 p.m. Terry, I love having you in the studio. Thank you so much for coming in and sharing your heart. And God is blessing your ministry, and I love to see what's going on with that.
Well, thank you for having me. It's a privilege, and we're just honored that you welcomed us into your home.
You're welcome here anytime. You know, one of the calls that we heard just earlier this hour had to do with the whole idea of serving a God of redemption. And, in fact, we're going to go to that call now.
On behalf of our church and all the rest of us Christians, I just want to thank you.
Thank you. You've touched me, Paul. I appreciate that.
There's a song out there by Big Daddy Weave. It's called Redeemed.
Oh, yeah.
It fits you, and it fits me just as well. So God bless you, brother, and just thank you. From the bottom of our heart, we just thank you.
Can't think of a better way to wrap up our conversation with Terry and what's going on at Saving Grace Ministries than to play that song, Redeemed. There's Mike Weaver and the guys from Big Daddy Weave on WDCX Lifeline.